Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here bright and early. You folks are troopers, I guess. Make it so early. Hopefully, had your coffee and ready to go for the day. So my name is Sharad Kumar. I'm the field CTO of Data at Click. We are a software company, data analytics platform company, provide capabilities, everything from data integration, data quality, data governance to analytics, AI, and I'll talk about that more later. But today I'll talk about how data products built on Databricks can get your data ready for AI and enable greater business outcomes. So let's talk a bit about the market from a AI perspective. So analytics has been an evolving space over the last few years. We started years back with what I call descriptive analytics, which was all about understanding how your business is doing, what happened in the past, why it happened. It was largely through the use of BI, visualizations, and dashboards. Now, this is still extremely prevalent today, and actually 90% of businesses use this type of analytics. And most analytics performed today falls in this category. Then after that was predictive AI, which was really classic machine learning, where we built applications like next best action or recommendation engines, which were built on machine learning models trained on data that would make predictions and help us in our decision making. So a little over 2 years back, when ChatGPT came out, we were certainly pushed into this world of generative AI, where now we had access to these pre-trained models or LLMs, which we can use through conversational interfaces and get answers as well as generate brand new content. Now, most of us are just beginning to understand what generative AI is, how can we apply it to our business, and already we're evolving into the next phase, which is agentic AI, which is use of agents which learn and act autonomously and can make decisions on our behalf or assist humans in their decision making. Now, generative AI is an extremely transformative technology. A lot of customers are doing a lot of projects in that. But I think one thing to keep in mind is it's not the answer for every use case. In fact, half of AI use cases that were done last year fell under the category of classic machine learning. And obviously, agentic AI, as it evolves and matures, is going to be truly transformative. So it's a lot of customers and a lot of companies, organizations are getting into AI projects, but a vast majority of them fail. Right? So if you look at these numbers here, less than 25% success rate in terms of AI projects really delivering any kind of value to the business. So let's look at the factors. Why is the case? So the first one is really about data. So AI is only as good as the data that you use to build AI on. And a lot of organizations have bad data. And the lack of this good data foundation leads to failure of these AI projects. It's a classic garbage in, kind of garbage out scenario. Then a lot of time, the models themselves are flawed. And they give incorrect predictions or they end up hallucinating. A lot of organizations have also over-rotated on generative AI, throwing LLMs at every problem. And like I said earlier, that's not the solution to every use case. So you have to look at applying the right AI to the right type of use case. If you throw generative AI at every problem, it may not be. A lot of projects fail for that. Another big reason is that a lot of organizations are treating these as long-drawn science projects and not really focused on business outcomes. And that's why a lot of these projects fail. So there are two key takeaways for you from here, right? So one is don't just dive into your AI projects. You first have to focus on the data side of it. Get your data foundation right. This increased momentum around AI that we talked about is bringing renewed attention on the data platform, the data fabric, capabilities like data integration, data quality, data management, data governance, right? They're coming to the forefront. So it's not a surprise then if you look at the survey, more than 90% of customers are saying they're going to increase their spending on data and to make sure that the data is ready for their AI initiatives. So what does it mean to get your data ready for AI? Right? So we kind of group them into 6 key characteristics that your data need to have before you consider it ready for AI. So first is you need to have diversity in data. So if your data is not diverse, your AI is going to be biased, is going to make unfair decisions, right? Your data needs to be timely and up to date, so you're feeding the latest and the freshest data to your AI algorithms to drive decisions on. So a lot of customers I talk to, they're actually converting their batch pipelines now to more real time, driven by the AI projects, need for most recent and up-to-date data to act upon. Your data needs to be accurate and good quality, obviously, important for the trustworthiness, effectiveness of your AI system. You need to make sure your data is secure. So you have sensitive information in your data, your proprietary information. You have to make sure you protect it so it doesn't leak through AI, right? Your data needs to be contextual. It needs to have the right business semantics, and it should be findable, not just by human, but also by machines in the future as agentic gets more and more traction. And the last one is your data needs to be shaped in a form that these generative AI applications, like typically you see these RAG architecture, retrieval augmented generation, and they require data in a vector form. So you need to make sure you're shaping your data into a vector form so you can build these types of LLM-driven applications out there. So these are the 6 characteristics you need to make sure your data has before you can say, my data is truly ready for AI. So let's talk about what's the second takeaway from the survey, is that your AI initiatives must be tied to business outcomes. So one technique is for you to work with each of the operating units within your business and start to identify what are the key AI use cases in each one of those business units. Now make sure that the AI use cases you come up with are not just all in the same type of AI, like all conversational agents. Make sure you have a good cross-section of AI use cases, which could be across predictive AI, leveraging machine learning, conversational agents, things like that. And then what you can do is you can prioritize them on this kind of 2x2 matrix, right? One, what is the business value of it? And the second is what is the ease of implementation? Now, ease of implementation could mean things like availability of data, readiness of data, how complex it is to build, analytics, and so forth. So putting them in this kind of matrix, you can start to identify what are your quick win AI projects. Because remember, that's one thing you need to do in your organization as you do is you want to gain momentum, you want to show success. So picking quick wins projects that are not super hard to implement and deliver business value are critical to building momentum and to continued success of your AI projects. So any use case you select, it should be clear what success looks like. So if you look at this particular use case of sentiment analysis, it should be clear what metrics that particular use case is going to impact. In this case, it should be known that if I do this right, it's going to improve my product satisfaction score, right? It's going to reduce product returns. It's going to increase conversion rates. So again, the outcome that you're trying to deliver should be well known, right, in order for your AI project to have the right outcome. So a couple of tips for you as you build your data AI strategy within your organizations. So make sure you're building core capability around data we talked about, which is repeatable. Be able to ingest data, transform data, data integration, data governance, data management, data quality, data security, all the fundamental principles of data. Build core capability, core muscle around that within your organization. Another critical one, put data and AI work under the same governance structure. So a lot of customers, what they're doing, the trend in the industry is they're actually at the leadership level, combining CDO and CIO roles into chief data analytics officer. So key is to put them in the same governance structure, at least closely aligned. and make sure your data funding is tied to AI funding. Because that's one challenge all of us have faced being in technology, is how do you get funding for a large project to just do data work? So if you tie it to the AI investment, these AI use cases which are tied to business outcome, that's what you get funding. So I'm seeing good chief AI officers, data officers are tying their data initiatives to AI initiatives and making sure it's under the same investment umbrella. So you prioritize also your data based on AI initiatives. You cannot do everything at the same time. So once you prioritize AI, you tie them to what data, and you prioritize your data assets around your AI priorities. Also, you follow a true two-pronged approach. Focus on both short-term wins as well as foundational work. So I had a CDO customer, very, very smart guy, and what he said was, he called them, he had in his portfolio a set of Ferrari projects and cargo ship projects. What he meant was every time he'll go funding, good part of the funding will obviously be go towards these cargo ship kind of projects, which were large foundational structural projects, could be migration to the cloud, which is multi-year, big thing, doesn't deliver immediate value. But then he would always have, he said, in his portfolio, a bunch of Ferraris, which were quick value delivery AI type of projects. So that's a good mindset to have. Always think of this dual track strategy, because you cannot go to tell your executives and go say, okay, I'm going to take 2 years to fix my data foundation and then we are ready for AI, right? That's too late. So how do you do this at the same time is very important. And this dual track approach of thinking, prioritizing use cases, prioritizing data, focusing on some quick wins, as well as large foundational thing is a good way to think about it. Okay, so let's get into data products now. How data products enable AI. So in order to get from data to outcomes, there are two main types of stakeholders, simply. They're data producers and data consumers. So what do data producers do, right? Data producers are typically tasked with, how do I get the data out of source system? How do I move the data? How do I store the data? How do I protect the data? And they really often, most of the time, don't understand the user needs or the use cases that they're trying to solve for, right? On the other side, you have data consumers, whether they are building a BI dashboard or they're data scientists. They're trying to find what data is available for the use case, what form the data is, can I trust this data, how do I consume it, where did it come from, right? So they're trying to find those things, and that's a challenge for them. And what this creates is a gap between data producers and data consumers, and ultimately leading to lack of adoption, higher cost, and longer time to outcomes. Because producers are doing the work, but the consumers, that's not the work consumers want done, right? So that's what the case got. So data products bridge this gap between data producers and data consumers. So these data products have some very peculiar characteristics, right? They are packaged into something that can be trusted, something that's curated, something that's clean. So inherently good quality, trusted data that's packaged up as data product. They have measurable value. They align to a business domain. They're easy to consume, and they're reusable. And the most important thing about data products are they bring ownership and accountability to data. Because in order to have, if somebody says, I have a data product architecture, the first thing they need to have is they need to have somebody as an owner. And typically they're calling them data product managers, data product owners, and it's really a team sport. But think of them as custodians of that data that sit in the middle and make sure that data products deliver that business value to the consumers. So what is a data product, right? So it's not just a data set. So that's at the heart of it. Of course, a data product has to have data set, tables, files, whatever it is. But data products take data set and bundle together multiple other things. The code, the transformation code that goes with it, the business semantics, the data quality rules, the policies from an access control perspective, service level objectives. All of those are packaged together into a data product. And data product is built iteratively. So nobody does all this thing in one shot. So you can start rolling out a data product which may have a few data sets or some quality rules, and you can publish it out. But few characteristics, like we talked earlier, you have to adhere to. It has to have an owner. It needs to be findable. It should have a data contract tied to it. And data products is typically accessed through what we call output ports, meaning there should be multiple ways to access a data products. The different type of consumers of data. Some may want the data through a REST API if I'm building an application. If I'm a BI developer, I may want to consume data through a SQL interface. If I'm doing a machine learning, I may want it as a file, delivered as a file. So the same data product, because the data is the same, should be able to deliver the data for different use cases through this mechanism of output ports. So we conducted a survey along with IDC around the use of data products. And if you look at this survey result, we found that almost 80% of the customers are working with data products. And half of those have invested heavily in data products. And actually, in the same report, there was a very tight correlation between maturity of AI programs within these companies and use of data products. So treating data as a product has multiple benefits. Makes data easier to find and consume. It makes data easier to govern because you have an owner, somebody accountable for it. It brings more reusability of data. It makes data easier to consume from an AI perspective. So ultimately, all this leads to faster time to outcome and lower costs. So a data product may look like something like this. So we talked about 6 principles earlier to get your data ready for AI. But think of it, if you have a large data estate, it's hard to apply all those principles to your entire data estate at the same time. So data product is a great quantum to apply those 6 principles to. So you can construct the data products around those principles, right? That you have integrated data which is clean, trusted, good quality, is timely, it has the right business semantics, it has multiple output ports, so it can be consumed very easily for different type of analytics. So you could be doing BI on it, you could be training your model on the same data, you may be building a conversational RAG agent against this, or in the future, a lot of automated agentic architectures that may use the RESTful API of the data product. So just thinking of data products in that, it makes managing data a lot more easier than looking at the entire data state. Okay, so now that we know what data products are, let's talk a little bit about how you align them to business domain, because that's the biggest thing. Data products are business domain aligned. So how do you start to think of, okay, what are the data products within my enterprise? So we'll take an example of a retail domain, right? So here are some examples of data products in a retail domain. So let's take the first one, Customer 360. So this is not Customer MDM, right? This is Customer 360, meaning we are unifying all the customer transaction data, interaction data, engagement data, could be loyalty program that the customer participates. All that information is unified under this data product. Another example of a data product in retail domain could be product level or SKU level performance data product. So here you're consolidating everything about sales data, return data, reviews about the data products, stock level around data product. All those things, again, collected, unified from different sources and packaged into a data product. Same thing could be for inventory, everything about inventories, stock level, who are the suppliers, where are we shipping this inventory, how is it moving, all the data aggregated together. So you could have multiple other products within the retail domain itself. Now, another thing to know about data products is you don't build a data product to solve just one single use case or one single problem. A data product should be supporting multiple use cases within a specific domain. So if you look at the example of a Customer 360 data product, it can support use cases like customer segmentation, personalized recommendation, or sentiment analysis. Multiple use cases on the same trusted packaged data. For example, SKU performance, same thing. I could do multiple types of things like demand forecasting or optimized pricing, or be able to generate insights around how do you bundle the product. So again, all of those kind of use cases driven off the same data products. So for the rest of the presentation, I'm going to focus on one specific data products and talk about, okay, how do you go about building this data product. So before you go about building a data product, before you build any product, you got to gather requirements, right? So this is an example, a technique, what I call a data product canvas for aligning your data product to a business outcome. So just like real products, you need to understand your audience. You need to understand your customer. So first thing you do in the data product is start to identify who are the data consumers, what are the type of use cases they want to use this data product for, what are the key metrics for success. So you start with that. Then you start to capture who's going to own and manage this data product. What's my data product team going to be? Who are going to be the custodians and the stewards that will participate? And then you start to go down and say, okay, where would I go get the data for this data product? What are the different sources? What kind of data? What are the tech and tooling around it? How will I build and realize this, right? This is a great technique as you embark on your data product to start to capture that kind of information in this canvas. And each product you build, you have a similar canvas for it, right? So this ensures you're not just building data products for the sake of building data products. They're aligned to an outcome. So example would be the SKU data product that we talked about is really relies on top of the Databricks platform and will leverage all this. So the data for the data product always sits within the data platform, right? It doesn't sit outside of it. And then the data product will support different types of use cases from the Databricks platform. So now that we have identified what data products are, we've aligned them, we've captured requirements around, okay, we need to build this data product, we know who the consumers are, we sort of know the sources. Okay, how do you do it? This is where our platform comes into play. So at Qlik, we have a platform called Qlik Talent Cloud, which provides an end-to-end set of capabilities. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So if you look at the Databricks ecosystem, so Databricks has a large, diverse, and growing ecosystem of partners. Multiple partners around data integration, orchestration, business intelligence, data governance, and security. So if you're a customer and you're trying to build an end-to-end solution on Databricks, you still have to take multiple of these tools and spend a lot of time, effort, and complexity in integrating and tying them together. This is where we come into play. So we are the only partner of Databricks which actually satisfy 3 sets of capabilities within the ecosystem: data integration, business intelligence, and data governance and security. So if I go kind of deeper and take a look at what does the platform provide, right? It has a very rich set of capabilities around data integration, so everything from data movement. So we can acquire data from any source you have out there. You have a mainframe, you have an on-prem database, cloud database, you have an SAP, you have data coming in through streams, you have data sitting in files, you have data through API. We can acquire that data and deliver it to the Databricks platform. In a Delta format, in an iceberg format, we support both. Now once you have the data there, you can transform the data, integrate, join, shape it into different forms, and we support multiple ways of doing it. You can do classic ETL, or we can do also the more modern ELT, where we can push down the transformations into the Databricks platform, both into the Spark engine as well as the Databricks SQL engine. And without writing any line of code, you use a drag and drop palette to build your pipeline, and it generates code that runs within the Databricks platform and executes all the compute for transformation. We have capabilities to build trust in the data, observability, data quality, stewardship, data security, adding semantics to the data, things like that, and then finally turn them into trusted data products. And then on the analytics side, we have capabilities for you to build your BI, visualization, dashboards, analytic applications, including machine learning and predictive models, but finally turn those insights into actions and embed those into points of engagement through automation. So that's the end-to-end platform that we have, which enables you to get from raw data to insights to actions, leveraging all the capabilities underlying on the Databricks engine, right? So we leverage everything from the Delta Lake, Unity catalogs, the Databricks workflow, right? Both the SQL engine, the Spark engine. We integrate with the LLMs. We integrate with the vector database within the Databricks platform. Specifically, if we talk about how do you go about building data products within a platform, it's really a three-step process, right? First, you have to engineer the data sets around the data products, right? Which is acquire the data from sources, join, integrate them, and create these integrated consumable data sets. And these are typically done by data engineers who are part of the data product team aligned to that domain. Once you have a data set, you can start to package them into data products. You take the data sets and you add business semantics, you add quality rules, access control policies, documentation around the data product, and finally, you activate it. Activate means now you're making the data product accessible and shareable and gets published into a data marketplace that we have. Right? Data marketplace where now consumers can easily come and search and find the data products and use them. And while that's going on, the data product management team manages the lifecycle of the data product. So they can learn how consumers are using the product and create a new version of it, which may include some new data sets from different sources. Or they may improve the quality of the data product by adding additional data quality and validation rules and checks to ensure. Or the data could be initially maybe coming every 2 hours. They see a need from consumers, and then they change the pipeline to run every hour. So the data is fresher. So all those things are part of the lifecycle management of the data product. You see how users are using it, and then you continuously enhance your data product. So if we take the first step, okay, I got to acquire the data. So in a data product canvas, we already identified where our data is coming from, right? So we said the point of sale data is coming from an Oracle database. I have some e-commerce data coming from Shopify, a SaaS applications. I have ERP data from SAP, return data in a SQL database. I have reviews and ratings for the product. They're sitting in some files. And then I also have additional stock data coming from Oracle database. So we have techniques to acquire the data from these different sources, whether it's in bulk, whether near real-time change data capture, whether unstructured or semi-structured data that's sitting in these files. We can process and capture all of that and ultimately deliver it onto the Databricks platform. And not just deliver it, we can keep the data in sync. So think of that as your raw data or your bronze layer within Databricks. Okay, that's just like source data. It's not being transformed. It's sitting there on the platform. And as any data is changing in the sources, we are delivering those changes to the Databricks platform. The second step, what you do is you start to now integrate the data, right? So you have disparate data sets, and typically what you would do is you'll create some kind of data model, which is easy to consume. And again, based on the use case, your data model could be a data wall style of use case. It could be a dimensional model. You may decide to structure the data in wide tables. Whatever your data model is, you need to do some work to transform this disparate data coming from different sources into an integrated data set. And that curated data set is then also kept on the Databricks platform, typically in a Delta format. And this could be your silver zone or your gold zone, depending upon how you are building your medallion architecture. So these, like I said earlier, these transformations that you do to join and create the data into some kind of model form is all done in a no-code approach in a platform. Through a drag and drop approach which generates the code that executes within the Databricks platform. Now, if you have use cases around RAG and generative AI, we can actually take the same data and we can vectorize it. So what we do is we call the LLM within Databricks, DBRX, to actually create the embeddings for the data and store them within the vector database of Databricks. So now you have a vector representation of data in addition to a tabular representation of data. So you can support, let's say, a conversational agent or RAG type of use case against the same data that you sourced once. We also have an AI copilot here, or assistant, where you can start to describe in natural language English what kind of transformation you want to do on the data, and it'll do that for you without you writing any code or even dragging, dropping. So which is a new mode of interaction in most systems. So now I have a curated data set sitting in the Databricks platform. Now you start to go into the next step, which is packaging up your product. This is where now your data product team comes and say, okay, these sets of tables make up this data product. What are the business semantics around it? And our platform has capabilities where automatically detect the semantic meaning of data and then automatically create a lot of the business metadata around the data automatically, leveraging AI. Other thing to improve quality of the data and make sure data is good quality is you can start to define data quality and validation rules. Could be rules around completeness, could be around accuracy, could be around discoverability of data, and all of those actually individual elements are packaged into what we call a trust score. So each data product think of as a trust score, which is very critical for consumers when they're looking for data products and say, how can I trust it? And the trust score is made up of multiple dimensions, kind of similar dimensions we talked about earlier, the 6 different dimensions of completeness, diversity, and things like that. They also create data access control policies around the data product. Who can access this data product and also manage access requests to the data product. And finally, you activate the data product. An activation of the data product actually puts it into a marketplace, promotes the data product into the marketplace. So think of it, you follow a typical development cycle. You work on the data products, package it up, and when you're ready to say, okay, I want to put this production, I want to share, you push a button and it gets promoted into a data product marketplace. So in the data product marketplace, the consumers now come and they can search and find this particular data product. They can understand it, they can look at the technical metadata, they can look at the business semantics around the metadata so they can gain understanding what does data product do. They can build trust in the data product. They can look at what are the quality score, the trust score. How has it changed over time? What is the lineage of the data? Where did it come from? How was it joined? Where did it originate? So that's very important to building trust. They can learn how to use that because each data product has a documentation around it. Then finally, they can use it. They can directly launch analytic applications from there. Or they can call the RESTful APIs on the data product and start using the data product. And finally, they can collaborate and provide comments and feedback to the data product team. Right? Now, obviously, the ultimate reason to create the data product was to generate your business outcomes that we talked about. So now I can start to build analytics around it. For example, it could be simple dashboard where I look at sales trend of a particular product. Or I could build predictions around the demand for a particular SKU in a particular region. So I could be building a machine learning model. Or I could build a conversational agent against the product reviews. So I can get deeper answers into what are customers saying and talking about my product, which is largely a lot of times unstructured data. So all these insights you can get from the data, which can ultimately lead to increased sales, higher gross margins, better customer satisfaction, reduction in return rates, and things like that, right? So that's absolutely critical. And all these types of analytics, dashboards, predictive model, conversational agents, you can build them all on our analytics platform, right? So again, your data for the data product is sitting on the Databricks platform. We are not taking it out of the platform, but we're enabling it to manage your data better as a data product and create data products through this entire life cycle to make data easier to use, easier to consume, more usability, better governed, more trust in the data. So finally, to summarize, so you can build your trusted data foundation on Qlik and Databricks platform and be able to get from raw data to outcomes quickly and reliably. Now, there are a lot of tools out there, so something unique about us is, again, a lot of these things, the rich breadth and depth of capabilities on a single platform, you don't have to assemble and integrate multiple other tools. You can focus more on your business outcomes. The effort spent or effort saved in integrating multiple tools, you can focus on your use case. Now, it doesn't mean that everything we have, you have to use everything. We are very ecosystem friendly, very API driven and open, so you can actually plug in other tools if you already have them. Doesn't mean you have to use everything within our platform. But again, the more components you use, the easier it becomes and less integration work you have to do. And it all works on the Databricks platform because very, very open. You can build your data products on it. It also provides you the architectural flexibility. Right? You can deploy it on-prem, you can deploy it in the cloud or software, you can deploy in the hybrid model, you can use any pattern you choose, ETL, ELT, how you want to bring data in and make changes, right, without any complications, right? Today you're delivering, let's say, in Delta format. Tomorrow you want to say, okay, I want to go Iceberg. You just change configuration within a platform and you get data in Iceberg format. You don't have to jump through the hoops. You also want to deliver onto an object store at the same time you're delivering into a Databricks environment. You just add another target into the pipeline. So it provides you that architectural flexibility. And ultimately, other people, our experts are there to help you, guide you, support you. They're extremely passionate about this platform. We make sure that we are leveraging all the latest and the greatest within the Databricks and data intelligence platform. Our engineering teams work and partner together. And they're extremely passionate to make sure our products work at scale to do what they do, because some of our largest customers out there use our platform. So finally, you can visit us. We're in the expo floor, booth 521, for interactive discussions. We have teams out there who can do demo of multiple of those components. So look forward to seeing some of you. Thank you.